Here's the reality most people refuse to face. Earthquakes cannot be predicted to the minute, but pressure can be measured. Fault movement can be tracked. Patterns can be identified. And those patterns point to specific regions in the United States that are far more at risk than most people want to admit. Most people misunderstand risk. They think risk means certainty. It does not. Risk means probability combined with consequences, and earthquakes rank high on both. When they happen, they do not inconvenience. They dismantle. One of the most dangerous beliefs is that past survival guarantees future safety. Cities that survive previous quakes assume they will survive the next. Fault systems do not respect confidence. Let's break this down properly. California. California remains the most earthquake-exposed state in the country, and it is not even close. The San Andreas fault system stretches hundreds of miles through densely populated areas that rely on fragile, just-in-time infrastructure. Modern California is not built for long outages. Most households keep very little water, very little food, and depend entirely on electricity for cooking, communication, and transportation. When the shaking starts, those systems fail immediately. Many people assume help will arrive quickly because California is used to disasters. That assumption is dangerous. Scale overwhelms experience when millions are affected at once. Insurance delays create a second disaster. Claims take months, sometimes years, leaving families trapped in damaged homes or forced to relocate without resources. Population density makes everything worse. Even a localized quake turns into a regional crisis because millions of people are affected at the same time. Emergency services are overwhelmed within minutes. Aftershocks are another underestimated threat. A large earthquake is rarely a single event. Buildings weakened by the first shock may collapse hours or days later. Fires spread when gas lines rupture and water pressure drops. California's water system is especially vulnerable. Aqueducts, reservoirs, and pumping stations depend on power and intact ground. When those fail, firefighting and sanitation fail with them. Evacuations create their own dangers. Highways clog instantly, fuel runs out, and people abandon vehicles in panic, blocking emergency access. And California's ports, highways, and logistics hubs are national infrastructure. A major quake does not just affect residents. It disrupts food, fuel, and goods across the entire country. California also faces a housing reality problem. Millions live in older apartments and homes that were never fully retrofitted. Seismic upgrades are expensive, and many landlords delay or avoid them entirely. High-rise buildings introduce a different danger. Long-duration shaking causes structural fatigue that may not show immediately, meaning buildings can be evacuated for weeks even if they remain standing. Wildfire risk increases after major earthquakes. Broken gas lines, downed power lines, and dry conditions combine into fires that cannot be fought due to damaged water systems. Pacific Northwest, Washington, and Oregon. The Pacific Northwest sits above the Cascadia subduction zone, one of the most dangerous fault systems on Earth. This is not a normal fault. It is capable of producing a magnitude 9 or greater earthquake. Cascadia is different because of duration. Shaking here can last minutes instead of seconds, which dramatically increases structural failure even in newer buildings. Many coastal communities have limited evacuation routes. A single damaged road can trap entire towns with no exit. Geological records show Cascadia ruptures roughly every few hundred years. The last confirmed rupture occurred in 1700. That places the region squarely inside a high-risk window. When Cascadia goes, coastal areas will experience violent shaking followed by tsunami risk. Inland cities will suffer long-duration shaking that destroys roads, bridges, and older buildings not designed for it. Soil composition matters here. Large portions of the region sit on sediment that amplifies shaking and increases liquefaction risk, turning solid ground into something closer to quicksand. Geography makes things worse. Mountains, forests, and limited transportation corridors mean outside help will take far longer to arrive. Some communities may be isolated for weeks. Supply chains into the Northwest depend heavily on ports and rail. Damage there means shortages far beyond the epicenter. Most residents have never experienced a major quake. That lack of experience leads to panic, poor decisions, and injuries that could have been avoided. Many Northwest homes are built on soft soil that amplifies shaking. Structures that survive elsewhere may fail here due to ground liquefaction. Ports in this region are critical for trade. Damage to them would interrupt fuel, food, and supply chains well beyond the Northwest. Weather compounds the danger. Heavy rain, cold temperatures, and limited daylight increase hypothermia and exposure risks after a quake. New Madrid Fault Zone: Missouri, Tennessee, Kentucky, Arkansas, Illinois. This is the fault most Americans have never heard of, and it might be the most dangerous. The New Madrid Fault produced some of the strongest earthquakes in U.S. history in the early 1800s. Those quakes were felt over enormous distances and caused widespread destruction. The geology of the central United States allows seismic energy to travel farther than on the West Coast, meaning damage spreads wider and faster. Many communities here depend on aging bridges and levees. Failure of either isolates populations immediately. Unlike California, buildings here are not earthquake-hardened. Brick homes, older infrastructure, and shallow foundations dominate the region. Even a moderate quake could cause massive collapse. A major New Madrid event would affect multiple states at once. Power grids, pipelines, railways, and highways would all fail across huge areas simultaneously. Emergency response in this region would face a coordination nightmare. Multiple states, multiple agencies, and damaged communication systems slow everything. Hospitals in this region often operate near capacity even on normal days. A surge event overwhelms them instantly. The biggest danger here is surprise. People do not expect earthquakes. That means little preparation, unsecured furniture, and no practiced response. Emergency coordination across multiple states would be slow and disorganized. Jurisdiction confusion delays rescue and recovery. River systems could shift, flooding areas that are not flood mapped. Bridges and levees are especially vulnerable in this region. Oklahoma. Oklahoma has seen a sharp rise in seismic activity over the past decade. What used to be rare has become common enough to ignore, which is dangerous. Frequent small earthquakes weaken infrastructure over time. Foundations crack. Pipelines shift. Buildings absorb stress they were never designed to handle. Repetition matters. Damage accumulates quietly until one larger event exposes every weakness at once. Energy infrastructure is especially exposed here. Damage to wells, pipelines, and refineries affects far more than the local area. When a larger quake hits, accumulated damage turns into sudden failure. Structures that survive dozens of small tremors may not survive one big one. The problem here is complacency. Earthquakes are treated as curiosities instead of warnings. Most homes are not prepared, and most people have no emergency plan. Many residents underestimate how fast shaking can escalate from minor to destructive. That false sense of safety delays preparation. Critical infrastructure like water treatment plants and fuel depots are especially exposed due to aging systems. Final reality check. Earthquakes offer no warning, no countdown, no evacuation window. People often assume technology will save them. Alerts, apps, systems. But earthquakes move faster than notifications and harder than algorithms. When the ground moves, everything changes immediately. Power goes out, communications fail, roads break. Emergency services focus on mass casualties, not individual households. That means for the first critical days, you are on your own. Communities that prepared together recover faster. Those that relied on outside help wait longer and suffer more. Preparation is simple, but it must be done early. Secure heavy furniture. Store water and food. Know how to shut off gas and power. Identify safe zones in every room. Most people do none of this because nothing has happened yet. That logic works right up until the moment it does not. 2026 is not a prophecy, it is a risk horizon. Ignoring it does not make you safer, it just makes you unprepared. And when physics decides it is time, excuses will not matter.